Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our D211 Virtual Career Expo. My name is Mrs. Waterman, and I'm the Career Advisor for the Hoffman Estates High School. Also here with me tonight is Mr. J.C. Brown, the Student Services Department Chair for Hoffman Estates High School. We will be moderating this evening's session.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. The Student Services Department has multiple staff members to assist your student with their career exploration. Our school counselors will guide your student with information specific to their individual career path. School counselors also present career exploration lessons to all grade levels throughout the year. Our college and career counselor supports students with additional and more specific career exploration tools as well. Lastly, our career advisors provide information related to internships, job opportunities, career assistance, and even provide field trips to different workplaces in our area.
Now, before we get started, if everyone that's watching from home could please click on the attendance link that we're going to be dropping into the chat bar. This will take you to a short survey so we can get an idea of who's joining us tonight. We really appreciate your help with that. So take a few seconds and fill out that attendance link, please. So tonight we will be bringing you information on careers in architecture and construction. People in this industry work on buildings and other structures, including highways, bridges, railways, and many other areas of infrastructure. They might create the designs or plans for new structures, or they might use the plans to build or manage the workers on a project. We have a wonderful group of speakers that will be discussing their careers in architecture and construction. Now, during these presentations, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please drop them in the Q&A tab. If we do not have a chance to answer your question during our live session, we will work with our speakers to get you the answers after the event. So today, we have some speakers from the Village of Schaumburg, Mr. Ron Weber, from the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, and Stika, from Archon, George Demaracas, and from Cisco, the Construction Industry Service Corporation, we have Dan Allen. So without any further delay, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ron Weber. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ronald Joseph Weber Jr. And I know my name doesn't match my face, but I assure you I'm not a last-minute substitute. I'm a plans examiner for the Village of Schaumburg. I represent the government side of our AEC industry, which we usually include the engineering side to the architectural and construction. My responsibilities and duties include, the majority of it is the R, so just imagine that as the biggest letter. I review drawings for code compliance. Why? To protect people and our built environment, to ensure accessibility and energy efficiency. But I also facilitate and arbitrate conflict resolution and answer permitting and planning questions. And just as important, I maintain my competency and identify risk. Next. I started to really understand my capabilities in the Army, but it also rewarded me with exposure to standing operating procedures and a clear path within an organization. Next, I understood my studiousness when I became a licensed architect during architecture school as well. Now, what does it mean to be an architect? For one, you have to be a problem solver. You have to be a coordinator, a great communicator, both orally and written and graphically. You have to understand litigation, identify risk, understand business, people, our environment, technology, list goes on. I have 15 years on the private side in architecture before I started this career in the government side. And projects all across the board, from daycares, restaurants, high rises like the image before, that was a 60-story tower in Chicago. But it's okay, next slide. But my experience really developed these skills that are listed here. And within those skills are the personality traits that I found that I had in order to excel in this role. Now, one, you need to be curious for sure. You need to be resourceful. You have to communicate with whoever you're dealing with, whether it be the contractors or consultants or owner. You need to be a problem solver. You have to be proficient, because there is a lot of permits that come in through the village of Schaumburg, and you need to make sure that you're reviewing those efficiently and precisely. Next slide, please. So my advice I have to offer is really to understand who you are, to guide you through your achievements. And I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your job. We'd like to move on to the next speaker today, Vince Stika. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. My name is Vince Stika. I am the Director of Training for the Mid-America Carpenters. We have 19 training centers throughout the state of Illinois, also St. Louis and Kansas City. Describe my day-to-day. Well, it kind of depends on which area I'm going into, whether I'm going to be in Elk Grove Village, Chicago, Belvedere, or maybe St. Louis. Pretty much we have the same curriculum at all our training centers. My day-to-day is I make contact with the apprentices, the instructors, the staff, to make sure that everything is going smooth. Our apprentices are continuing their education. My personal education, I have a background in construction and also architecture. I went through the program as a carpenter. I still hold a journeyman's card. My personal traits, I always seem to be able to get along with students, staff, and work out problems, and give students the opportunity and the challenges to, this is not a job, it is actually a career. When you become an apprentice and work your way up to a journeyman, you have a lifelong career. Some of the things that I would share with people that are interested in the trade is, Billy, you have to be willing to travel. You have to, you need to keep up your training, especially in the construction industry. Everything is changing. Materials are changing. Equipment is changing. The technology is unbelievable. We no longer use blueprints. Everything is on iPads, TV screens. So you need to know how to operate computers, be able to communicate with architects, be able to communicate with your staff at the office. So that it's a very tech-oriented trade today in any of the trades.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Now we'd like to hear from Principal Architect George Demaracas from Archon. Floor is yours.
Those are two tough acts to follow, and you stole half my thunder, Ron and Vince. So let me see what I can add to the architecture side of things. My name is George Demaracas. I'm one of the principals at Archon Associates. We are an architecture firm that specializes in schools. Pre-K through 12 is everything that we do. So anything you guys look around, additions and renovations at 211, that is pretty much our hands have been in that to design and implement. We've been working with you guys since 1979. I mean, that's before I was born, in case you guys are wondering, but yes, that is our specialty. What's unique about us is our firm we have 34 employees, and all of us are ranged from interior designers, construction managers, architects, landscape architects, roofing consultants. There's a lot of players that are kind of stirred in the kitchen, cooking things up and working on things together, right? Day to day, by mentioning all those different players, you can tell it is very spontaneous. There's always something different going on. From you could be at a stage in a project where you're in early stages, working with a client, figuring out what their needs are, schematically designing, coming up with unique ideas, to all the way having projects that are in the middle of construction, that you are visiting construction sites weekly, looking at how things are getting built, making sure the process is moving along. A lot of misconceptions that people think is an architect sits behind a desk and draws and that's it. But really, I always say we are the ones that are putting the the Lego instructions together and then watching the people build the Legos and making sure they're building them right. That's the easy term of saying it, right? From an education standpoint, I did my years of undergrad at U of I in Champaign, followed up with my grad school there. And the typical architect route, as Ron had mentioned early on, is as you get your degree, your job's not over yet. You're not a licensed architect yet. To become licensed, you have 6 more exams to take once you are completed with your schooling. And each of those exams are 3 to 5 hours long-ish. But really, a lot of those are testing your skills of things that you learn that you experience. It's not trying to trick you. It's really, as the more you work, the more knowledge you get, the easier those tests become. And it's really making sure that you understand how things get built to be a licensed architect. Personality traits. Uniquely, I always say it's 80-20. 20% skill, 80% personality as far as communication. Our industry really succeeds. The biggest success you have in it is how you communicate with others, how you control the narrative, how do you explain your ideas, how do you work with engineers, clients, and really listen and understand their needs and make sure everyone is getting things together. You're never working alone, kind of sitting things in a bubble. Most of your time is spent working in teams and working with others. So you be prepared to get out of your comfort zone every once in a while on that front. The 20% skill, I say, is you learn that over time. You have what you have, and as time goes on, you get better and better at it. If I share one piece of professional advice, I'd say, especially early on as you exit high school and look into your careers in college, you never know what connections you'll make that will come to fruition to help you in the future. I was at Lou Malnati's having dinner, met a lady who was having dinner next to me, hearing her talk about her son, and said, "Oh, he's an architect. Let me get him a job." And that one young man is actually doing a great job. He's one of our best architects that we have in our office. So you never know where your opportunities are going to be. So I always say, never be short-sighted, continue making your relationships. And as you get out of college and into your career, a lot of those friendships will turn into opportunities for you in the future.
Fantastic. Networking is really such an important skill to start cultivating as early as possible, because your friends in high school and college will actually spread out across the entire globe. And it's nice to have that built-in network with that commonality with your schooling. Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate your insight and input. We'd like to move on now to Dan Allen, the Executive Director for Cisco. I think he might have stepped away from his, oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. I don't know what happened there. For some reason, all of a sudden my camera's shooting real low. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you. Yep. We're looking at the other
know
side of
why
your
that's-
phone. I think you got to flip your phone around.
Somehow I got flipped. No, there it is. I didn't even touch that, but somehow I got flipped. Sorry about that.
All right, the floor is yours. Dan.
Great. Well, good evening, and you just like the others, everybody's laid out really a real good template of what people need to exceed. So my name's Dan Allen. I'm with a organization called Cisco. So we represent about 8,000 union contractors and about 140,000 skilled union tradesmen and women in 20 different trades. So as Vince described, the carpenters union in the trade that he coordinates the training for, that's one of them. And there's plumbers, electricians, pipe fitters, carpenters, roofers, cement masons. It goes on and on. So each one of these trades has a training center where the union contractors and the union trades come together collaboratively to make the most advanced training for your particular career. Most of them are 3 to 5 years. The interesting thing, or the great part, is you get paid to learn. You earn while you learn. So you'll be making a very competitive wage as you start out as a first-year apprentice. You'll be in the training center and then on the job as you go along. So once you complete that program, you're going to be a full-fledged journeyman or woman and have a career for life, burn you into many different directions. So my day-to-day at Cisco, some of what I really like doing is we have a lot of hands-on career fairs where we actually coordinate and the trades come and they show you how to lay brick, bend pipe, carpentry work, what have you. And then you get to talk one-on-one to that particular program. We come out and give just this type of brief I also do a lot of, everybody talked about networking. We network with community groups, with local politicians and that to show the value of safety. Just like Ron started talking about, the trades provide, the architects provide the drawings on how to keep, how to build buildings safe. And the tradesmen and women come in there, take those drawings, and then they execute that. So it's a tremendous amount of training throughout your career. But one thing is, if you don't know the first thing about a trade, they will teach you. You never knew how to drive a car, driver's ed, next thing you know, you're driving. So just like the other personality traits that serve me is the willingness to keep, the willingness to make connections, the willingness to be a team player. And I think just like George said, you never stop making connections that help and bring you to the next level. Many of the people, men and women that go into the building trades, they might do that for 10, 15 years. Next thing, they meet somebody and they're a product rep. They're many of them are inspectors, or some of them go on to be, different aspects of many of the different trades, estimators, project foremen. So there's a huge demand for this industry, and would love to provide you, any of you, with information and even some support to get you started. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Yes, if there are any students out there watching that are interested in getting into the trades, please talk to your career advisor. We are happy to help make those connections for you to make sure that you are in contact with people that can get you information on applying to one of those apprenticeship programs. We have some time now for a little bit of Q&A. I'd like to first speak to Mr. Weber. If you can take a second to unmute your microphone. Can you please share with us one thing that surprised you most that you didn't know before you got into your industry?
One thing that surprised me most was, I think it was the impact that I was able to provide for people around me, not just with the built environment, but just within the organization. Being an architect, you really have a great opportunity to inspire, and that's what really surprised me the most.
Wonderful. The inspiration component is very important. That gives a lot of job satisfaction as well. Do you want to talk about your spelling bee awards there?
I'm not a good speller. I was trying to make an acronym for my roles and responsibilities, and I just came up with frame, but it was, poor attempt of humor.
No, it worked out well. I like how you tied them both together. Moving on to Vince. Vince, I have a couple of questions for you. In the world of carpentry, can you talk a little bit about how long apprenticeship programs are in carpentry and what different types of carpentry students can go into if they want to specialize in something?
All right, it is a 4-year program. The fifth year, you are completely in the field. Start of your 6th year, you become a journeyman. The classes are relatively 20% in the classroom and about 80% in the shop.
And when students start to join these apprenticeship programs in any of the trades, they're receiving hourly pay. Do they also receive benefits?
Yes, as soon as you start, as soon as you become an apprentice and you go to work, for every hour you are paid on your behalf, as well as you're working at what we call a pension credit. Pension credits have something to do with how many hours you work a year. So you can get a 1/4 point, a 1/2 point, 3/4, 1, 1.5. Just depends on how many hours you work per year.
Great, thank you. And how old must students be if they'd like to start looking into becoming an apprentice? What are the rules for that?
You have to be 18 years of age to work on a job site, but you can apply for the program when you're 17.
Wonderful, thank you. And moving to George now, if you can unmute yourself. Tell me a little bit about different types of construction, different types of architecture. So you work in the education role, but what other types of construction and architecture are there that students might want to major in or focus on after they get out of school?
Wow. Okay. So it's kind of a sky's the limit on architecture a little bit. So when we specialize in the pre-K through 12, and I like that because you're always learning something new. If you think of a school building, you're building fitness centers, performing arts theaters, pools, libraries. There's a bunch of little types of projects that we get to do and you become an expert in. Out there, I mean, you're looking at people, a lot of people like working downtown in the city, doing skyscrapers, condominium complexes. The Mr. Brady approach of building houses. Everyone always thinks I want to build homes and do residential. There's a lot of people that do those types of things. International. As I look for my peers as they graduate and see where they went and their opportunities, where they've taken them, a lot of them taking them overseas to kind of get into the international markets of working in different communities, be it big cities or even rural areas. Uniquely, the architecture skills can go in very different ways. I know friends who got into the video game industry designing architecture for games. I know people who work in New York that became architects on large performance stages for theater performances. Looking at Wicked and those types of things. They all use architects to create those types of things. So the realm of, or the profession of architecture is very grand, and it could take you a lot of different ways that you might not even think are possible.
That's interesting. So do you have to take specific classes as an undergrad or in graduate school to, like, if you wanted to do sports arenas, if you wanted to do, you know, structures outside, or do you do that after you start working?
Typically, when you're in the college courses that they run you through, and this is pretty standard for most schools, and Ron, if it was different where you at, you let me know, chime in. But in the undergrad, you have a number of studios that you get to partake in, and you get options to pick which way you get into. And each studio, it usually tries to dabble in something different. So as you're getting your 4 years of college experience, every semester you start getting exposed to different types of projects, so that by the time you hit your senior year, you can kind of start seeing things that you kind of like. When you get into grad school, it starts narrowing that focus, and it starts saying, okay, you started leaning towards the practicality of buildings, and maybe you want to focus more on construction. It'll lead you can start getting more into the master's programs of those. Or you like focusing on design, you might open your eyes into something that's a very different side of architecture. So the 4 years of undergrad usually try to broaden your horizons. As you get into grad school, they usually try to hone those in. And then the rest becomes a life lessons and jobs that you take and things that you learn and like more and more.
Yeah, absolutely, George. And anybody that graduates with an architecture degree should get a "I survived architecture school" shirt, because it's quite an experience.
You know, I'm going to piggyback something that one of the reasons that I do this, and we've been doing this for so long, is sophomore year of college, you're always looking for jobs, and you always go to career fairs. And I remember the first person I walked up to shunned me away and terrified me, right? So I never want anyone to have that experience again. So I always look at the high school level to start broadening the horizons and making sure that it's possible. But I'll tell you, after our first year of providing internship with the 211 students, the first student blew apart any of our college interns that we ever had. So I got to say that the students that are coming out with their high school degrees are high and above, better than the ones that are in the colleges already. So you guys are starting off right. Anyone who's interested in it. So
Yeah, I know. I always ask my kids for tech support, so they definitely have that piece down for certain. So Mr. Allen, pivoting to Cisco, so you represent a number of different trades in the Chicago area. Can you talk a little bit about what you need to get in all of these different programs? Do they each have different qualifications? Are there different tests that they need to pass? How does that work if they want to get into a specific type of the construction industry?
They all do have a little bit different requirements, but overall the template is pretty much the same. As Vince said, you can apply at 7. You cannot be on a construction site till you're 18. There is an aptitude test for most of the. It's going to have pretty big math and reading. There for one or two of the trades, there's 2 years of high school algebra for electricians, C or better, but most of them are an aptitude test. You'll also have to take a physical to see that you're, in decent physical shape to perform construction. And there also is a drug test. So all of our trades, because, we're working in, relatively dangerous environments. We teach safety beyond, compare at the school, and on the job, you will learn safety. But if you're impaired or you're not in shape, you're up on a high rise, you're working in tandem with people, it's imperative that you're on the top of the game. And that is why our wages, as Vince talked about, that is why our wages and benefits are so competitive and so good that you can have a middle class lifestyle in these. You can earn $100,000 in the trades with full health insurance, pension benefits, the annuity, as Vince said, but it's because you're going to be at the best and you're going to continue to perform at that level. And that means always being on time, alert, and drug free.
Thanks. Let's talk a little bit about that pay piece. Can you tell me a little bit about how much entry-level wages are, mid-career, late career? How does that work, since you do have a union and you have a scale that you work with?
Yeah, so each union is a little bit different, but you're going to be starting out right out of the bat with most apprenticeships right around $18 an hour, right in that range. And every 3 to 6 months, depending on the trade, you're going to get a bump in pay, and you're going to get a significant bump. And just so you know, when we're not expecting anybody to learn how to wire a building or learn how to be able to do the stairs. They're going to be, when they're in the school, they're learning with teachers that were a journeyman in the field. And when they go out onto the job, they're assigned to a journeyman or a journeywoman, and that person is a mentor, looking out for them, looking out for their safety, but challenging them. The first thing they'll do is say, "Hey, what'd you learn in school yesterday? What size wire are we pulling?" "I don't know." "Yeah, you do. We went over, I know you went over this week at that school. You went over, the wiring ampacities." So you'll challenge that person and they'll say, "Okay, it's a 20 amp circuit. It's a number 12. Next thing you know, they get the confidence because you learn by doing. But we also have a journeyman or journeywoman looking out for that apprentice all the while. And each 6 months, they're getting a bump in pay, After 4 years, some of them are 5 years, few of them are 3 years in there, but you're making close to right in the neighborhood of $50 an hour on your check, plus those benefits being paid in on part of the employers. So it's a very, middle-class job, career. It's not a job. It's a career for life.
And you have to love what you do, definitely. Well, thank
Correct.
you so much, everyone, for sharing your information with us today. We quickly do a screen share and turn it over to JC for a second while we wrap things up today.
Thanks, Paula. Yeah, I just posted the attendance link again, so make sure that you're signing in. Just click on that link, and then it's a short Google form to sign into today's session. So, but yeah, thanks for attending the session. Now that you've had an opportunity to hear about these different careers, don't stop there. I'm listening to all these presenters, and I'm thinking about some of the classes that are offered to all of our students. We have classes from woods and electronics to architecture classes. And then we have a building construction class that students can take where they actually go and build a home in the community during their junior and senior year. So students definitely talk with your counselor, your career advisor about those different classes, if that's something you're interested in taking. Make sure to continue your career exploration and your post-high school planning. Take a look at the suggestions listed on the slide. Career interest surveys can be completed using Zello on your iPad. Like I said before, schedule meetings with your counselor, with your career advisor to talk about different careers. And lastly, plan to attend a career trek, research internships, job opportunities, and then plan college visits as needed too.
Thank you, everyone. So recordings of this and all of the other sessions from tonight's virtual expo will be uploaded and available on our website probably early next week. So if you joined us late, or you would like to watch another session that is happening at the same time, you can do that once we get all those recordings up for you. If you have any questions, you can always send those to your career advisors, and we will work with our panelists to get those answered for you. And we'll make those published and printed when they're available. So I'd like to just wrap things up and thank our panelists one last time for your time spent, for sharing all of your expertise and for inspiring our next generation of workers. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Bye.